Welcome to Charging Your Ultra Mind and Higher Brain. I'm Agnes Lachlan. Do you know that 63% of workers are ready to quit to avoid stress? 94% of workers report feeling stress at work. And the American Institute of Stress reports that 120,000 die each year due to job stress. Signs you may be stressed are worry, overwhelm, headaches, sleep issues, high blood pressure, tiredness. And 80 to 90% of doctor visits are related to stress issues, manifesting, of course, in physical symptoms. So the question I have for you is, can we measure stress? And the answer is yes, I can with a heart rate variability scan. It only takes 5 minutes. And it measures various parameters of stress from your heartbeat. Just so simple. And 2 electrodes on your wrist. And the more variable your heart rate, the more your heart is relaxed and the less stress you have. So that's important to know. I want to talk about our human brain, which has evolved over many eons. There are actually 4 different parts: the reptilian brain, the limbic or mammalian brain, the neocortex of the human, and part of that is what we call the prefrontal cortex, right here in the forehead, behind the forehead. The reptilian brain, a lot of people know, is driven by fear and aggression, and it works to protect our most survival needs, like food, sex, shelter, and safety. And I have a map here that I am going to share with you with the map of the brain. So, oops, there, if I can get it in focus. The reptilian brain is down at the lower end. It controls breathing, the heart, and a lot of other things. And above it, you see the mammalian brain. And above that, you see the blue part is the neocortex. And the part right up in front, oops, the other way, is the prefrontal cortex. Thank you. The limbic brain is still dominated by survival needs, but also has basic emotions, and it desires connection and nurturing. More recently in time, we developed the human cortex, also called the neocortex. Survival is also the primary focus of this brain, but survival is now enhanced through abstract reasoning and intellectual prowess. However, the 4th brain, also called the prefrontal cortex, right here, is called the angel lobes. This structure is responsible for our highest human virtues, including compassion, understanding, love, gratitude, and empathy. Also, purpose, meaning, and spiritual experience. We now have access to more of this higher potential, where we see more purposeful thriving and not merely surviving. So I'm sure if we think and reflect about these struggles and survival things that our parents and grandparents went through, life was not always a piece of cake. There were real challenges just to survive and put food on the table, to pay bills, all of those things. The prefrontal cortex is also called the silent area of the brain because here lies a reservoir of untapped potential. This raw latent potential is waiting to be energized into something new and revolutionary. This revolution has already begun with something I'll call network spinal analysis and has now been adapted into what I call higher brain living and source code meditation. The latter two by Michael Cotton, who was a chiropractor. Joseph Chilton Pearce, in his book, The Biology of Transcendence, has studied the prefrontal cortex, and it says it goes through two significant growth spurts from the age of infancy up to 1 year and in the early 20s, so that by the age of 25, it is fully developed. Ever wonder why your teenagers are so inconsistent or erratic in their behavior? Perhaps some teen issues are due to the lack of development and awareness that develops way into our 20s, right here in the prefrontal cortex. Joe Dispenza, another former chiropractor, says that to change our life and results, we need to change our brain waves. And studies have shown that higher brain living floods the prefrontal cortex with alpha waves, which enhances focus and meaning and purpose. And according to Michael Cotton, the issue is that we just can't think our way to better thoughts. Thoughts are related to a number of factors, including our environment, relationships, emotions, and state of consciousness or awareness. According to Michael Cotton, founder of Higher Brain Living and Social Source Code Meditation, when metabolism increases in the prefrontal cortex, the quality of our thoughts begins to shift, as well as an empowered emotional state comes about. Dr. Andrew Newberg, author of Principles of Neurotheology, has correlated spiritual experience with brain function. However, I will say right off that correlation does not equal causation, nor does this mean that the brain creates consciousness or the mind. Evidence does exist that implies for us to have profound spiritual experience or advanced states of consciousness, positive emotional experience, the prefrontal cortex and other areas of the brain must function well and have more energy. So, hacking meditation. As far as an EEG goes, a recording is considered valid for 1 year, meaning it shouldn't change much. But what Dr. Cotton has found and others is that EEG changes significantly within 20 minutes of the first higher brain living session. This was studied by his student, Allison Ooms, right here in Chicago. So traditional meditation techniques are valuable, but they have some real limitations. Most meditations techniques attempt to use the mind to change the mind. And Dr. Cotton says this is like asking the fox to guard the hen house. Traditional meditation techniques take time and cultivated awareness and intense focus to lead to any significant metabolic bursts in the physical higher brain. However, few of us make it here, as it is entirely too arduous for most. That's according to Michael Cotton. The Dalai Lama is said to do prayers and meditations 7 hours per day. Why do we access only about 5% of our potential? And how do we overcome overwhelm, disconnection, and stuck? What powers the happiness in your life? And when was the happiest day of your life? What was the primary emotion that you felt at that time? I'll give you a minute to think about some really happy time in your life. Why do we not feel this way all the time? Or at least most of the time? What gets in our way? So according to Cigna Global Health, 46% of Americans report feeling lonely sometimes or always. And that was back in 2018. And Dr. Lisa Rankin says that feeling lonely is the #1 factor in the cause of disease, including heart disease, depression, anxiety, and stress too. So we can look at Kate Spade, who committed suicide at the age of 55, much to the disbelief of her friends and family. I believe there is a part of Kate Spade in all of us, and the reason for mentioning her is that we often make assumptions of those we know based on outward barometers of success without knowing what they are often dealing with on the inside. Yes, this disconnect is showing up even more and more among our younger teens and younger folks. In fact, the Center for Disease Control says that gunshot deaths from suicides outnumber those from homicides by like 6 to 10. So 6 out of every 10 deaths from a gun are suicides. So that's really serious. So the quality of our thoughts can begin to shift and emotional state with higher brain living or source code meditation. And Dr. Andrew Newberg, the author of Principles of Neurotheology, have correlated spiritual experience with brain function. However, correlation does not equal causation, nor does that mean that the brain creates consciousness or the mind. Evidence does exist, though, that implies that for us to have profound spiritual experiences or advanced states of consciousness and positive emotions, the prefrontal cortex and other areas of the brain must function well and have more energy. Hacking meditation. As far as an EEG recording goes, it is considered valid for a year, meaning that there should be little changes. But one of the researchers for higher brain living says that EEG changes significantly within 20 minutes of the first higher brain living session, just one session. Traditional meditation techniques are valuable, but they have very real limitations. Most meditation techniques attempt to use the mind to change the mind. And this takes time. And like I said, a lot of awareness. So Higher brain living is a way to tap into the dormant part of your brain right here, because most of us only use about 5% of our real potential. That's because the lower brain structures often keep us in survival mode. And not only that, safety. We're afraid to make changes because we want to have the safety and the sameness that guarantees that an even keel. Making changes can often upset some balances. But by energizing the prefrontal cortex, we'll see more possibilities and we'll have more confidence to take action, more gratitude, and meaning and passion. So, higher brain living uses a gentle touch technique. I use my fingers to wake up the most evolved part of our human brain with energy. And like I said, EEG recordings document significant changes in the brain when this happens. So does this seem far out to you? Consider this. What would a smartphone have looked like to your great-great-grandmother? It would look like magic. Yet today we understand that it is entirely possible. Today we are seeing a new technique. Let's call it a smartphone, a latent potential that is alive within us all. It seems far out, and yet it's just a smartphone, the latest evolutionary advancement available to you. So why is it so important to spend time in our higher brain, higher mind? Einstein said you cannot solve a problem from the same level of consciousness that creates that problem in the first place. Your higher brain gives you the ability to solve problems and apply change to every area of your life. And the first thing we notice when energy is surging to the higher brain is a spontaneous movement and expansion of breath in the body, creating a feedback mechanism. I call it salutogenesis, which means that more oxygen is coming into the body and metabolism is increasing here in the brain. We also see stress being released. Sometimes we'll see natural rejuvenating wave-like movements in the body also. My personal experiences with higher brain living are remarkable. It was a synergistic effect of what I was and wanted to expand, and it transformed things exponentially. I changed things in terms of my mind, body, relationships, and environment. That means the environment includes our career and creative endeavors. And every client of higher brain living creates their own four-dimensional map. Those four dimensions, like I said, are the body, mind, relationships, and environment. I love this practice because I am constantly telling myself how my life is being created. And negative thoughts are burned in the higher mind when it is energized. So, and there is also a heart-brain connection and activation that is part of this process. The heart is actually connected to the brain with many neurons, allowing participants to amplify more love and joy and sustain feelings and actions. So I'm going to demonstrate this technique with a client now. And I will also send a recording if you would like to see a recording of a client receiving this. I also recommend, and my sources for this talk are the books, The Biology of Transcendence by Joseph Chilton Pierce and Source Code Meditation by my teacher, Michael Cotton. So if you would like a higher brain living session, I have a special offer of half price and also 2 for the price of 1. So if you would like to engage with me about this, I would love to offer you. It's like a massage table experience of your brain receiving energy that can completely change your life. And so I thank you for listening, and call me if you have questions. Thank you.